Since its inception, the Toyota Prius has been one of the goofiest, slowest cars that you can possibly find on the road. Not a head turner by any means. However, in 2023, all of that changed, and it got even better in 2024. Today we have the 2024 Toyota Prius Prime SE Edition. This bad boy's got 99 more horsepower than the last model, and it looks a lot better too. So let's check it out and see how this brand new Prius stacks up to the competition. Starting off in the front of the Toyota Prius Prime, it does have a little bit more sporty look to it than it did in its prior years. Starting off with the large checkmark headlights with the single LED headlight and some light diffusion with your daytime running light. A nice sloped hood here gives you lots of visibility when you're inside of the Prius. And then of course you've got the large Toyota emblem in the center here, a spot for your license plate, and then you do have functional venting in the center of the grille as well as on the lip of the car. And I kind of like how it's styled. You would expect it all to be blue and not look all that great. However, it does look pretty good in the front end with the flat black and the silver to kind of contrast with the blue. Overall, not too bad. Coming along to the side though, we do have some black plastic fenders. I'm not too sure why they chose black. I think they should have just stuck with blue, but they match the wheels awfully nicely. Speaking of the wheels, these ones are 17 inches and they do have the aerodynamic covers on them that are removable. Moving on past that, we've got our side view mirrors. No cameras on them, not a lot of options on this SE, but they are just black. But you do also have some driver assistance on the mirrors. Overall, not too bad. They fit the car size very well. And then moving back even further past the rear door, you do have your gas cap. And of course, no premium on this bad boy. But one thing that I do want to note is that the rear door handles are a little bit strange, but they're not strange if you've drove a Prius before. I mean, instead, you just kind of reach in there and that's how you open it. It is electronic though. But coming around to the rear, it's got a very Prius look to it. Not a whole lot has changed here at all, but it is a hatchback actually. And then you've got the Toyota logo in the center here, large Prius emblem, and then the Prime badge to let you know that this is a plug-in hybrid. But you do have the taillights that run all the way through the center of the vehicle. Overall, I think it's a good design, looks pretty classy. I like how it looks. And then at the bottom, we've got again a lower lip that is that flat black. Not too bad. And then on the right-hand side of the vehicle is where we have our plug-in spot. How about we hop inside of it and see what's going on the interior? Now, one thing is for certain, actually the Prius is a pretty good value when you think about it. It comes out around $30,000. We'll talk about that more later. But with that price tag, you get a lot of plastic, and you can see it all starts right here. This is all plastic. No soft touch molding or anything like that, just plastic. However, you do get a little bit of fake leather here. It's got a little bit of cushion, but other than that, no contrast whatsoever, all black on the door panel here. And you've got very typical controls, one-touch operation for all your windows, side view mirror controls, and you can child lock the windows. Before we step into the Prius, it does actually have a little bit of a coolness factor. On the door sill here, you do get a nice silver Prius Prime badge. It looks cool. Now the seats themselves on the Prius are not too much to write home about. You've got no power control over these seats at all. You've got some lumbar adjustment and forward and backwards, all manual. These are just cloth seats, but they do look kind of cool. I like how they look. You've got the gray at the top with the red stitching and lining. Overall, they look nice. Let's find out if they're as comfortable as they look though. Now the first thing that I can think of when I hop in this Prius is, man, does it look so much better than it did in 2022. Now if you remember back to 2022, we had our digital gauge cluster in the center, a very large screen here with your gear selector in the center console. It was an absolute disaster. I don't know who designed it, but whoever took over this one is doing a much better job. Starting with the steering wheel, it's not too bad. It's kind of comfortable and it's got a lot going on. Very big buttons on it for sure. On the left-hand side, we've got our buttons for multimedia control or for menu navigation on our digital gauge cluster. On the right-hand side, we've got our mode for where you want to listen to your tunes from, as well as our driver's assistance functions. This does have adaptive cruise control, lane keep assistance, lane departure warning, cross traffic warning, all the goodies from Toyota. But yeah, it's not a bad steering wheel. Got a little toot toot, of course. It's very toot-tooty. But behind the steering wheel, the stalks are also very typical. On the left-hand side, we've got light control as well as our turn signal. On the right-hand side, we've got our front windshield wiper. Not too bad. Now, to the left of the steering wheel, we've got our automatic high beams, our window defrost, and our heated steering wheel. Even the base model has a heated steering wheel. That's pretty great. And then at the lower, we do have our gas cap release as well as the button to power on our 120 volt outlet in the rear. Now, the digital gauge cluster itself, in my opinion, is an absolute disaster. It's clunky, it shows weird information, it's not very well laid out, but it is a 7-inch digital gauge cluster, and it also has the feature where it's constantly trying to make sure that you are looking at the road, and if you drive like this, it thinks that you're never looking at the road. It's an absolute disaster for people that drive like me. Moving on to the right of the steering wheel, we do have our power button for our push start operation, as well as an 8-inch infotainment center. Now, this is Toyota's latest software, so it is better than in prior years, but there's nothing too crazy going on here. You can mess with your charging schedule, look at your energy flow, and for whatever reason, you can control the climate, even though below the infotainment center, you do have full climate controls in the form of buttons. So I like buttons more than trying to change the climate in this tiny little touchscreen. But below that, we do have 2 Type-C USB ports, a 12 volt outlet in your cigarette jack lighter style, and then we've got something secret for you. Right here, this is not a wireless charging pad, it is just a platform, and what it does is it hides your illegal stuff below it. Hidden compartment. Nifty. What are you doing, Toyota? But then we do have 2 cup holders, big enough to fit a Yeti, so that's great. And then we've got our gear selector where it belongs, so that's even better, as well as our drive modes. We've got custom, sport, normal, and eco. And I'll tell you what, if you put it in sport mode, you'll actually be pleasantly surprised with this Prius. Our electronic parking brake, traction control, auto hold, auto EV, and then EV charging. Cool. And then we've got this weird little slot. I guess it's for your phone. You just kind of like toss it in there like that, since that's not a wireless charger. And then it's got this channels for you to run your cables into your center console, where you also have 2 Type-C USB ports. Overall though, on the interior of the Prius, I do actually really like the dash. This layout is way better than in prior years, and also it looks really good. For the lack of contrast you have on the door panels and everything like that, this looks really solid. It is a little bit strange to me though, that the stitching on the seats and the patterns are red, and this is more of like a copper or bronze. So it doesn't really match. That's kind of strange, don't you think? Well, above the infotainment center, we do have a very standard rear view mirror. It does have, you know, so that if somebody's driving behind you and they got their brights on, you can stop them. But above there, you've got your dome light controls, and they actually look pretty cool, I would say, as well as your SOS button. Nothing too crazy though. No home link, nothing like that. I guess they figure Prius owners don't have garages. I'm not sure. And then a nice big visor with the pop out, and you even get a nice bright light. That about does it for the front of the Prius. I think there's some stuff in the back though. Let's find out. All right, moving along to the rear of the 2024 Prius Prime. Again, the doors are just like the front, except they're even more plastic. You don't get that soft vinyl over here. It's just all really hard plastic. Like, it even kind of hurts to knock on. But getting in, we do have a decent amount of headspace. Uncle Steve probably wouldn't fit too well. I'd feel bad for him if he was back here, because my head almost touches. I've got about 1 inch of space above my head. But over here at the back of the center console, we do have 2 Type-C USB ports, as well as that 120 volt outlet that we had mentioned. There's 6 total USB Type-C ports in here, as well as a 12 volt outlet and a 120 volt outlet. That's a lot of power. Whole lot of power in this Prius Prime. And then of course we've got the little pull down here. It's nice and soft, not too bad. Couple nice sized cup holders. Overall, the rear has tons of room. This is in my driving position, and I've got maybe 8-9 inches of legroom here. If Uncle Steve was driving, I'd probably still have like 3. Now, like I mentioned, the Prius Prime is a hatchback, and I'm sure it's got tons of room, but let's find out. Now, to open the Prius Prime, up right below the Toyota emblem on the right-hand side, you've got a little electronic button, and then it just lifts open. We've got a nice size space here. We can probably fit 3 or so suitcases in here. Not too bad. nice and flat, and you can also lay down the seats, of course, if you need more space. Underneath there, we've got our charger for our plug-in hybrid, and then over here we have our battery, and also, actually, another 120 volt outlet. This thing's just loaded with power. Well, that about does it for the interior of the 2024 Prius Prime SE. How about we hop in this bad boy and get her on the road and see how she handles. All right, now we are behind the wheel of the 2024 Toyota Prius Prime SE edition. Now, this is the entry-level edition for the Prime in 2024. And, you know, for that reason, it's actually missing a lot of stuff. As you could tell when we went over everything, it's very basic, nothing too fancy going on. If you go a step up, you also get like an electronic hatchback as well, so it's powered. And then the top model also has solar panels on the roof so that you're charging while you're sitting. But this one, just very basic, not too much stuff going on. But I will say, right off the bat, this has more power than any Prius I've ever driven before. It's actually good. It's not bad at all. At least when you're in the auto, EV, and gas mode. So it'll switch back and forth how it sees fit. And then if you've got it in sport mode, it actually takes off. We can squeal the tires a little bit on some wet pavement. Surprisingly, the seats aren't as bad as I expected, but they're nothing to write home about. Hopefully you're not taking many hour-long car drives in this, because your back will probably start to hurt once it gets broken in, especially. But what do you expect on a sub $40,000 vehicle? But aside from that, like I said, the acceleration is actually quite good. And then visibility is also pretty good as well, because you've got a really low hood and then a massive windshield. The windows are also really big. The spot where the worst visibility really is for me is actually the rear hatchback. But that's pretty typical for hatchbacks. You usually don't get a lot of visibility on them anyways. Aside from that though, the steering wheel feel, it's pretty good, not bad. It's obviously not real leather, but it's not bad. The brakes themselves are pretty touchy. They're not regen brakes though, but it does regenerate power when you're not on the accelerator. But it's not regen braking specifically. One thing though that I will really say is that the shocks on this are practically non-existent. Like, you feel everything. And also the noise itself, like tons and tons of electric engine whine. When the gas engine kicks on, it's also very loud. Tons of road noise. We hear absolutely everything. Like, we're not even going over anything crazy right now, and I hear the road nonstop. Like, it's really loud. It's not very good at all. There's no sound deadening in this at all, I think. But I mean, it does drive good. Like, you know, yeah, I don't feel like I'm in a Prius anymore. When you do have it in EV only mode, it is considerably slower. Wouldn't you say it's actually
0 to 60?
It's like 100% slower, isn't it? Because in the mixed mode, you get what, like a 6.7 second?
6.6.
Yeah, so 0 to 60, and then in EV mode,
about 10 seconds. That's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. It's 100% worse in EV mode, but it is pretty efficient. There isn't really a lot of options for storage in the Prius. You've got a relatively small center console, not very big pockets on the doors either, and that's about it. But you do have a well-sized trunk, and actually when you lay the seats down, it does lay relatively flat, so you can store a good amount back there. But yeah, all in all, it's a Prius. How about we get Uncle Steve in the driver's seat so he can tell us more about why this Prius is so much faster than prior models and how he feels about the drive.
Well, it's time for Uncle Steve to talk about the powertrain. Well, for this 24 Prius Prime, they only offer one powertrain. It has a 2.0 inline-4 hybrid engine with only one electric motor. The total net horsepower is 220 horsepower. The gas engines only produce 100 horsepower and 139 foot-pound of torque. And Toyota only offer a front-wheel drive for these models. For the regular Prius, not the plug-in hybrid, they offer a front-wheel drive and the all-wheel drive. Unfortunately, for this, only a front-wheel drive.
I am hearing rumors that in the future, they are potentially going to have a plug-in hybrid that will have a third motor for the rear wheels to make it all-wheel drive.
For the Prius?
For the Prius Prime, yeah.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yeah.
So nobody was stuck in the snow.
Right.
Of course, this is a plug-in hybrid. We're going to talk about the fuel economy. If you only use the oil, like just the battery itself, it can go up to 44 miles, which is on average is about 30 from what we test drove it, right? For most vehicles, it's 30. Yeah. 44 is pretty acceptable. It's more than acceptable. Combined electric and the gas engine is up to 127 miles per gallon.
That is a lot.
That's a lot. If you're just using gas engine itself, it has 52 miles per gallon.
That's also a lot.
That's combined highway and city. That's a lot. Pretty much just like the regular Prius.
Yeah.
Well, since this is a plug-in hybrid, well, most people is just curious about the warranty. So Toyota offer 10 years, 150,000 miles, the electric part and the battery warranty, which is really, really good. I don't remember any other manufacturer offer 150,000 miles warranty. Have you?
No.
That's crazy, right?
That is crazy.
It's pretty much it's like the whole life of the car.
Yeah.
For most people.
Right. That's a long time. Especially if you're just driving in the city and you're not like doing like a lot of long distance drives and stuff.
And that's only that. Not only that, the warranty is transferable. If I want to buy your Prius Prime, I can still continue to use that warranty. That's awesome. Well, let's talk about the drive. It drives just like a normal EV car, not EV, hybrid car. The one thing I really hate is the steering wheel and the gauge position. It's really on top of my steering wheel is really blocking my view. I cannot even see how fast I'm driving or how slow I'm driving. It doesn't matter how I move the steering wheel, it's still blocking it. So that's one thing I really hate. Second thing is the gauge. It's really small. Like I think for grandma, I have to do it like this. Besides that, everything you just feel like cheap. Well, of course, I guess the price, the MSRP is pretty low. By the way, Josh, how much is this?
Well, this is the base model. So in 2024, the Toyota Prius Prime SE comes in at $34,110. Wow. That's pretty cheap. But there are 3 trims total. So the XSE comes in at $37,360, and you get some more features with that. You know, maybe it's not so plastic and everything, but there's the XSE Premium. That bad boy's got a solar roof and everything.
Solar roof?
Well, it's got solar panels that you put on the roof to charge.
That's crazy.
Right. And that one comes in at $40,805.
It's still okay.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, but I can tell by just driving, sitting on it, and feel the material, I can tell it is a cheap car.
Yeah, it reminds me of like an old Nissan or something.
Yeah, so, but for 32 grand, I mean, I'm not gonna say anything, you know, for today's market, you know.
Yeah.
How can you find a 32 brand new car nowadays? It's really hard.
Yeah.
On average, about $40,000, $50,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would definitely just buy the base model, or I go with the hybrid, not the Prime one, not the plug-in hybrid.
I don't know. Personally, I would think going to the XSE is the move.
Okay, so that's what you're gonna get.
I'm not getting a Prius.
Damn. Why?
Because I know you really want one, and I don't want our cars to match.
You don't? Okay. I don't want a plug-in one. You can get a plug-in one. I don't know how reliable the plug-in hybrid one, you know. For the regular Prius, it's very reliable. Most of them I see is like, well, almost 300,000 miles with no problem, or just a battery replacement, which is costs about $1,000 to $1,500 to replace the battery. So that is the only concern I will think about to buying this plug-in hybrid.
Yeah.
So how about you? You say you will not buy it. What about for your family, or your family? You think your friends will buy it?
I like to live by burning fossil fuel. So I prefer cars that get about 11 miles to the gallon.
Okay. You're the person that I still want a carburetor in my car. Like that, huh?
Yep. But in reality, though, like if I was looking for an efficient vehicle, the new Priuses are actually pretty nice. I don't mind this too much. I don't like the cheap build quality that it is.
Yeah.
It's like incredibly plastic. The fact that you don't even get soft touch molding, like, come on. But if I was looking for something that is reliable and efficient and, you know, and actually a good price too for brand new, I think Prius could be an option.
Like, I don't like, the drive is fun. I don't like how it feel like very cheap. Like you don't even get like wireless charger.
Yeah, I thought it was a wireless charger until I found the hidden compartment.
Yeah. So I will only buy it because for work.
Yeah.
And anything else, no.
Well, there you have it. In conclusion, Toyota finally did it right with the Prius. In 2024, the Toyota Prius Prime, not a bad vehicle. Questions on how reliable it is. I'm not a big fan of the entry-level SE, but if you step up the ladder a little bit and go to the XSE or even the XSE Premium for not that much more, you do get a lot more features and add-ons and you know, quality of life things. So if you're in the market for one, I do think that it's worth checking out. And you know, maybe you have turned away from the Priuses in the past, but I'm telling you, they're a lot better. I hated them in the past. Well, let us know in the comments what you think. Smash up the like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next video.